the end of the 19th century, the established theater on both sides of the Atlantic was in trouble. Plainly put, it was boring. A reaction set in. A major symbol of that reaction was the enormous body of work of the producer, playwright, musician, director, poet Bertolt Brecht, who began his own career in the theater as a rebellious, dissatisfied young man singing his own songs in the street. Someone has recently characterized Brecht as the first beatnik. Be that as it may, he had a theory of literature, particularly dramatic literature, to which he was dedicated. And in simple language, it was that literature must be real. Not reality in the slice of life sense, but a realness in the sense of being a part of life, of affecting life. Well, for a drama to achieve this realness, it had to tackle the basic economic and psychological aspects of living and of society. Brecht believed that this could be found within the context of any good play. Shakespeare, for instance. Brecht felt that some 300 years of production had buried the human aspects, the human realities of Shakespeare under layers of acting styles and various interpretations. And yet he was convinced that Shakespeare had created a world in each one of his plays. The world, for instance, in which Shylock had business decisions to make. The world in which Lear was the focus of political chaos. A world in which a complicated servant life went on in the castle of Macbeth. But how to find that world, how to achieve that real world in terms of the theater? How could Shakespeare be performed in such a way that we can find out what he was really saying? Well, Brecht's first step was to teach the actors how to understand Shakespeare, not to declaim him. So he evolved the scenes we're going to see on camera 3 today. Practice pieces for actors. These were Shakespearean scenes that were rehearsed along with the rest of the play, but of course were eliminated from the final performance. The idea was very simple. Brecht felt that if an actor could be made to see what Romeo was really like, or Hamlet, what human problems they had to face, that he would come to Shakespeare's language better able to convey the man behind the poetry. And at Brechtian rehearsals, there were also penetrating discussions of various aspects of the plays themselves, which Brecht often committed to writing, or even made up his own discussions, as in this one, where we see a director, a writer, and an actor.
I find Shakespeare's dramas still uncommonly full of life. His plays seem to have been printed right from the prompt book. Shh. I can almost hear the ad-libbing of Shakespeare's actors and his own last-minute additions at rehearsal. Why, the way the original editions divide the lines of verse often shows they were taken down by ear by a stenographer who knew nothing about poetry. Hamlet has always interested me. We know that it is a rewrite of an original play by a Thomas Kidd, a play which had been hit several seasons before. It dealt with the truly Herculean cleansing of Augean stables.
Augean stables.
Hamlet, the hero, put his house in order. And he must have done so without the least hesitation, as the chain of events snowballed into the final act. But the star of Shakespeare's theater was a certain actor who was, to quote Hamlet's mother, fat and short of breath.
Scant of breath.
For a time, Shakespeare wrote for this actor, and he made all of his heroes fat and short of breath. Macbeth was, Lear was. For him and because of him, the action was deepened in the rewriting. Swift contrary currents, that sea of troubles, were built in. It seems to me that as they rehearsed, the old play grew so fascinating, and the new lines which they ad-libbed led them into so many new directions, that when they came to the old fourth act, they found themselves faced with a dilemma. Their new, hesitant Hamlet must now somehow be forced into the final wild bloodbath, which had been the chief selling point of the old play. Now, the new fourth act consists of a series of scenes, each of which could solve Hamlet's problem. Perhaps the performer needed all of them. Perhaps he made his point with only one, and the rest were printed anyway, somehow. Each one sounds like a bright idea.
Maybe they put plays together like we do films now.
Possibly. But they must have been prepared for the printer by a man of extraordinary literary gifts.
According to your description, I see Will Shakespeare at the stage door each morning with a new scene in his pocket.
Exactly. I believe they experimented. They experimented every bit as much as their contemporary Galileo experimented in Florence, or their friend Bacon in London. And that is why I think it is only right that we perform these plays experimentally.
But that would be sacrilege.
Sacrilege is precisely what these plays have to thank for their very existence.
If you change one word of them, you lay yourself open to the criticism that you don't know how perfect they are.
Then you just don't know the meaning of artistic perfection or anything else.
So the experiments at the Globe Theater were like those of Galileo, which also deal with the globe in a sense. These experiments reflect a transformation in the globe itself. Shakespeare, the middle class was taking its first hesitant steps. Shakespeare would never have tailored that role to a short-winded character actor if the dissolution of the feudal families had not been apparent to him. The reality was there for him to hold his mirror up to. Hamlet's disease is middle-class rationalization, for one thing. His experiments led him straight to disaster.
Roundabout, not straight.
All right, roundabout. I agree with you. Like a Quonset hut that is slapped together for the time being, but which lasts forever. The play has something of the staying power of things provisional.
Exactly.
What do you call that building on the shore there?
Oh, that's a castle, Your Highness. They built it for the Coast Guard.
What are all those wooden ramps that run down to the water?
That's where they load the fish onto the boats, sail for Norway.
Most peculiar castle. Do the fish live there?
It's where they are salted. Your illustrious father, the new king, signed a commercial treaty with the Norwegians.
In the old days, we sent our soldiers there. I guess they've been salted, eh?
And there's something rotten in the state of Denmark.
Most peculiar.
That war is over. Yeah. We renounced our claim to their stretch of coast, and they contracted for our surplus fish. And really, sir, we've had more influence over there since than before then.
So, the fishermen must be really behind their new king.
The noise of battle fills no bellies, as the saying goes, sir. They are for the king.
But the ambassador sent by my illustrious first father, you must distinguish between them, was, they say, slapped in the face at the Norwegian court. Have we swallowed that?
Your most illustrious second father, so to speak, sir, He's said to have remarked that my Lord Ambassador had too much face to represent a country with too much fish.
Oh, wise discretion.
Oh, for 6 long months, our hardships here on the coast were intense. But the king hesitated to sign.
He hesitated.
Yeah,
You mean hesitated?
he hesitated. Why, once even, the garrison in the castle there was strengthened. Everyone in Fish said, it's war it'll be, not business. And back and forth we went, between hope and despair. But, in the end, God guided the hand of the king, and the treaty was ratified.
What about our honor?
To tell the truth, I see no insult to our honor. The modern touch, that's all, my friend. You'll come across it at every turn. Blood has lost its heady aroma. It's a change in fashion.
A peace-loving age, a timorous people.
What do you mean, peace-loving? Perhaps the fish have begun to fight back. A charming idea. And plan to salt down our soldiers. A little shame and a great deal of honor. It's axiomatic. He must buy our fish, who slaps our ambassador. Shame digs him a grave, but honor wants to have fish for dinner. And that's just why, recently, when the murderer stroked his royal cheek, he smiled in happy recollection, while the disobedient son pointed accusingly at money for fish well sold. Now that son's second thoughts about the murderer, not his first impressions of a murdered father, began to increase with honor. His cowardice has become his best suit. He'd be a rogue if he didn't act the worst rogue, and so forth. But it all adds up to good night, sweet prince, and don't rock the fishing boat. Oh. As business flourished, his luxuriant grave decays, accusing how much the more if it decay. One business is not settled yet. Striking a final balance there, might not that strike out addition of new figures, and too soon, perhaps too late. And does my uncle breathe yet, becomes a good man almost, not seeming, is. And you tear down all that might rise because it's built on sand. It grows, it shows a profit. Fill this house with butchery once more, turn back to bloody deed, because my father began there. Oh, but he only hesitated. He only had.
And thus, cautiously turning to his own account, the accidental drum, the battle cries of unknown warriors greedily snapped up. Finally, through such coincidences, freed from his so humane and reasonable inhibitions, and slaughtering his king, his mother, and himself, he justifies his successor's observation, for he was likely, had he been put on, to have proved most royal.
Can I go forward when my heart is here? Turn back, dull earth, and find thy center out.
My lord?
Shh! I'm busy now.
Is it true that you are selling that piece of land?
I'm sorry, old man, I need the money. Well, it's for a good cause, too.
What will become of us? I have a wife and 5 children.
You can, get a job.
At my age, my lord?
You're a good worker, old Gabo. I'll give you all the references you need. I need the money. I have obligations.
Indeed, my lord, I understand, but the point...
No, you don't understand. There is this young lady who has given me her be-all and end-all. Alas, I have fallen in love with someone else. Is that my fault? No, I just can't walk out on Lady Rosalind without a farewell present, can I? With a goodbye, Charlie, it's been swell knowing you, can I? Oh, that wouldn't be cricket, Garbo. Surely you don't want me to behave like a fink.
Oh, no, my lord.
Huh. If you do, you'd be nothing but a peasant slave and a rogue yourself. I'm being very unselfish about this. I'm giving her a farewell present, which is rather like giving something for nothing, isn't it? I mean, farewell presents cost money, but I expect no return for my investment. Now, that's very unselfish, you must admit. Oh, don't be a spoil sport. Who rocked me on his knee when I was small, huh? You. Who taught me to string my first bow, huh? You. You mean to say my old friend Gubbo doesn't understand me anymore? Makes me behave like a fink? I'm in love, man. Oh, she doth teach the torches to burn bright.
She does, my lord.
I would sacrifice anything or anyone for the one I love, Gubbo. I would even commit a crime for the one I love. Yes, even murder. And proudly, too. Isn't love wonderful?
Yes, my lord.
You can't understand. You're all dried up, old Gubbo. You're just old Gubbo. Try to appreciate my problem. Now that I've taken you into my confidence, I ask you, are you still my old friend, huh? My old Gubbo? Answer me.
Sir, I'm not good at making speeches. All I know, I don't know where I will go with my family if you chase us off your property.
Poor old Gubbo, he doesn't understand. I tell him I am burning with love, and he mumbles something about property. Have I got property? I've forgotten. I'm burning with love. I have no property, or perhaps I have. I have to sell out. I need the money. What do I know about property? I'm burning with love.
And we are starving, sir.
You blockhead! Have you no finer feelings? What are you, an animal? If so, away with you. Away. Away, the sooner the better.
Yes, sir. Away with us all. Here, do you want my jacket too, my hat, my boots? Are we animals?
Huh.
Then you must feed us.
This is what it has come to? This is the true face you've been hiding from me for 25 years like some leprous boil? Is this my reward for treating you humanely, you animal? Out of my sight or I'll kick your teeth in. He jests at scars that never felt a wound.
You're in love with Thurio? What's it like to love him?
Oh, at night, after I'm through picking up after you, miss, and I said my prayer, and the nurse is sound asleep and snoring, I slip out of bed again and walk to the window, barefoot,
Hoping he leaps the orchard wall?
hoping it doesn't sprain his ankle.
And there you stand in the window, barefoot, and only because he may be coming.
Oh, no, miss, because he has been there before.
I understand. I, too, love to look at the moon, and only because we've already looked at it together, I and my beloved. Tell me more. What would you do for him if he were in danger?
You mean if he lost his job? I'd run to his master and raise bloody hell.
No, I mean, if his life were in danger.
Oh, you mean if he had to go to war? I'd tell him to stay out of it, stay in bed, and pretend to be sick.
Would he agree to become a coward?
Well, if I cuddle up to him, he'd prefer our bed than to their war.
Well, but suppose he did go off to war and came back with some of them missing.
Like what?
I can't say it aloud.
Oh, that. I'd scratch his eyes out
Why?
for having gone to war.
Would it be all over between you?
But what do you expect with some of him missing?
Oh, you don't love him at all.
I love to lie with him. Don't you call that love?
It's profane love.
And that's nice, isn't it, miss?
My love for Romeo goes deeper than that.
Oh, don't you worry. If me and my Thurio make love, his love goes deep enough. Besides, I think I would forgive him if he would come back with some of him missing. After I'm over the first shock, I mean. Yes, I think I would. I love him very much.
You hesitated.
Oh, but that's also love, miss.
Yes. Yes, I suppose it is. And you must go to him tonight.
Oh, I'd better. He's going to see that other girl.
He has another girl?
Oh, they all have. I'm so glad that you've given me the night off. I must stop him, otherwise I might never see him again. He's seeing her at 11.
You must hurry or you'll miss him. Here, take my shawl. It's a pretty one. Now, are you wearing your good stockings?
Oh, yes, my very best, and I'm going to wear my prettiest smile, and I've been nicer to him than ever before. Oh, I do love him so very much.
Listen, was that a twig that crackled?
It sounded like somebody leapt over the wall. I go and look.
Well, hurry now. You mustn't miss your Thurio.
Well, who do you think is standing in the orchard?
'Tis Romeo. Oh, Nerida, I must speak to him from the balcony.
Oh, no, you can't. Your father's still up and about him, I hear, and you know what he's like.
Dear. Oh, Nerida, do you mind staying for a few moments? Walk up and down. Make a noise as though I were getting ready for the night. Rattle the wash bowl, or sing a song, or gargle, or... Yes, that would be the best. Do gargle, please.
If I miss my Thurio, that will be the end.
Oh, don't worry. He'll restrain himself. Well, he is a servant, after all. Now, he ought to be very good at restraining himself. Go on, Nerida, start gargling. Don't leave me in the lurch. I must speak to Romeo.
But be quick about it, miss, please.
Very quick, Nerida. Very quick indeed.
Oh, he talks too much.
Start gargling!
Arise, fair sun, and kill the envious moon. Oh, that she knew she were.
Michael Lebeck, as poet and as translator of a considerable amount of Bertolt Brecht, including our Hamlet today, what particular problems does Brecht present to the translator?
Well, it was the main problem in Brecht which really interested me in him at first. As I read more of him, I saw everything he wrote was dramatic. It didn't matter whether it was a play or a song or even an essay. And the translator's problem is finding voices in English for all of his voices.
Particularly if you are really translating for an American audience.
Yes, that is an added problem.
Miss Lenya, I think you taught us things about the nurse we never knew before, so you should add teacher to your many other glamorous credits.
What do you mean, the nurse that just played?
Mr. Lebeck thinks
You were
you're
my
a teacher.
teacher, too.
Oh, what?
Why, it was listening to you singing Bertolt Brecht songs when I was in college.
And
That got me interested in Brecht. I memorized all those songs.
Oh, so you learned German this way?
That's how I began.
Oh, well, you speak with a Viennese accent.
No, then I went to Hamburg for a couple of years.
Oh, that's good, too.
Miss Lenya,
Yes.
as a leading lady in so many Brecht Kurt Weill productions, Threepenny Opera, Mahogany, Seven Deadly Sins, you worked with Brecht when he was at the peak of his career. Was he still the unconventional, nonconformist that so many people think he was?
Oh, I think the first time I met him was in 1927, and then again in this country in 1940, and I don't think he has ever changed. He kept his entourage, his leather tie, leather jacket, leather cap. Only in summer he changed because it was a little bit too hot for summer, but he never conformed to any conventional
Did he adapt to
habits.
success?
Did he adapt to success? No, I think he was a rather modest man. He never changed. He loved a car, but it was not a Cadillac, by no means. It was a little car. And he was, as I say, very modest. When, for instance, the Berlin Ensemble went to Paris, and they all lived in the, good hotels, and Brecht stayed in a very tiny little hotel and left right after the performance, stayed that one night and left next day, and never
Was he a difficult person to work under as an actor?
Oh, no. I know he was the easiest person to work with because he had infinite patience with actors, infinite patience with everybody.
I've heard that he rehearsed and rehearsed and rehearsed, that you might spend a whole day rehearsing with him.
A whole day, months and years.
Yes.
That's why the Berlin Ensemble is so good, because they have infinite money, no unlimited time, of course.
I was there
produces
this
good
year
theater.
and saw them rehearsing one of the Brecht translations of Shakespeare, Coriolanus. And they'd rehearse it on Tuesday for a few hours, then they'd rehearse it again on Thursday, and then they might not rehearse it again for a few weeks.
Yes.
They were always doing several plays at once.
Because they have time.
They
They're not rushed. They don't have to bring out a play in 5 weeks.
And also, they've worked with each other for such a long time. It's a real team.
Yes, so American actors do the same. They work scenes.
Well, I'm very glad that as part of that team, once upon a time, that you came over here and that you were with us for so long and three penny.
We were a good team, too.
Yes, indeed. It is nice to welcome you back to Camera 3.
Thank you very much.
And Michael Lebeck, thank you for joining us today.